stay Panchi America, Banyi Dwal, Banaban Panchaleg stay Panchi America, Banyi Dwal, Banaban walk on the lake, Kankara Watana watching, Oga level leg, Gear Pow, Leg, Panda with Yae, Panchi America, Panya Dwalabano, Chingatonga Pandon, could you ever buy a check out, Panda Jiro, what they be Dwalaventing. Stand Panchi America, Banyi Dwal, Banaban Panchaleg stand Panchi America, Banyi Dwal, Banaban walk on the lake, Kankara Watana watching, Oga level leg, Gear Pow, Leg, Panda with Yae, Panchi America, Panya Dwalabano, Chingatonga Pandon, could you ever buy a check out, Patu Panda Jiro, what they be Dwalaventing.
Welcome to Ladies and Media, everybody. Welcome to my guest. Is here in the studio with me. And for those of you in the clubhouse, thank you for joining us. And for those of you who are watching Facebook and YouTube, thank you for joining us. Jane Kamis, is my sound is clear in clubhouse? Okay, sound good. So welcome. Today we will be conducting the interview as we all know about what happened, what's going on in MAGWI area. So the crisis going on between the cattle keepers and the community in MAGWI. So many lives since Sunday, people lost their life. So it's a heartbreaking. Before we conduct and give a chance to my guests in the room, I just want to give the moment of silence and let's pray for the loss of life that we see. Let's pray for those. So moment of silence. Thank you. Welcome again. For those of you who are listening to Clubhouse, this is an interview. We will see exactly what happened, what's going on. I would like to give my guest a chance to introduce yourself. Welcome, brothers. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And people are listening to Clubhouse and YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is EDMUND YAKANI. I work as Executive Director of South Sudanese civil society organization called Community Empowerment for Progress Organization and known as CEPO. And thank you for hosting me in this particular platform. And I know it's a platform which is very important and also tackling a very recent negative development that is disturbing us in the country. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Please start for the first, I will follow up later on after I put in my question. There will be the audience in the clubhouse will ask you a question, and some of people in the on the Facebook will ask you a question. But before I open that, Dan, can you mute yourself? My first question is about what is going on. What happened? What's going on in MAGWI area? What happened since Sunday? Can you brief us what's going on? What the root cause of the conflicts between the cattle keepers and the community of MAGWI?
The root cause is really competition over the use of the land for either cattle grazing for the herders, for the cattle herders, or farming for the farmers who are mainly the Acholi, the sons of and daughters of MAGWI. So it's a competition over the use of the land. But also besides that, in that competition, there's an aggressive approach of doing it. As you are aware that the cattle herders who mainly come from Tongole are armed. And you know, with South Sudanese behaviors, if one is armed, always one feels superior from the rule of law. So the cattle herders were being harsh to the host communities, and the relation with the host community became a bit sour and bitter. And as I said, the competition over the small piece of land for cattle grazing and for farming, it is really becoming tense. And obviously, somebody may ask, when you fly over South Sudan, you see a big chunk of land unoccupied. Why people are clashing over land? The land they're fighting for, it's a land that I can describe it as a land where the state may offer relatively safety and protection. And remember, the site of MAGWI, it's an area where still we have holdout groups that have not signed the agreement. They're in the bushes. So people are afraid of getting beyond the territory of a land that you can see state presence in terms of providing safety and protection. So the challenge and the root cause is that a bitter relations have increased or have grown up or have merged between the pastoralists who came from Jongole, men who are armed up to the teeth, and the host communities who are actually from MAGWI and who are mainly farmers. So that is where the beginning of the tension started.
Okay. So you said that is a land issues grazing for the cattle. So on Sunday, last Sunday, when the attack happened, we see the image for the governor, Louis Momo, went to meet with cattle keepers. After he left there, and then on Sunday the fight happened. So who started the fight? Is it the cattle keepers or the community? So I want to know that. We want to know exactly who started the fight.
You know, the fighting in terms of how it started after the visit of His Excellency, the Governor of Eastern Equatoria, Louis Lobonglo Chore, visit the cattle camps. His main visit was to create a bit of increasing social cohesion between the pastoralists and the farmers. And he was mainly targeting the cattle herders by telling them that there's a need for you to respect the norms and the tradition of the host community because they're hosting you. And obviously, I want to give you a bit of background. And these pastoralists or cattle herders who are armed are coming mainly from Jongola because they're escaping the floods and the raiding of the Murle. So what they started first that some few people came and raided cattle from the Dinka. And these Dinka cattle herders, after they've been raided, then what they did that they turn and start attacking the villages. So in terms of the beginning is that there's a cattle herders who attack the villages. And their village called Agoro of actually was first attacked and people move away because 2 boys were shot by the cattle herders. The shooting of the 2 boys by the cattle herders triggered the violence that is going on now in MAGWI. And why those boys are shot, those boys are hurt because the cattle herders say they have the early warning that the cattle are going to be raided by the other ethnic communities of Eastern Equatoria. Mainly, of course, in Eastern Equatoria have some communities who are also cattle keepers who are fan of raiding. So they say they had that there's rumors they're going to be raided. That's why they came across these 2 youth of actually, and then they shot them. And that's the trigger of the violence. So in terms of who triggered the violence, it's really triggered by the incident where the 2 boys were killed, and they're killed on assumption that they may be belonging to a group which is intending to raid. And from there, the violence escalated to various levels, as you can see now in the social media, burning of villages, revenge attacks. And there's also likelihood that there will likely be a revenge attack from our brothers from Jongole, they may revenge to the communities of MAGWI. But of course, these are rumors that need to be proved. But as you're aware, always in South Sudan, there's no information without having a source. So somehow this information is an early warning information, which I don't qualify here that is a true information, but the information to be watched out in terms of safety and protection of the civilians. So that's how the violence is started, and now it has gone to a worst level.
Yeah, thank you. What I see, so we see in the news that 22 or more lives has been lost on Sunday. Before that, 2 days ago, there another breakout, and I saw in the news that there's 7 people lost. So on Sunday conflict, we interview one of the Boer community leader in Juba, and he speak about this issue. He said that more than 22 people die, and 30 of those are children and women. So my question is here is like, and also he accused that the NAS group, the one who attacked the cattle keepers. Is it true there's a NAS group involved in this attack?
The reality and the facts I have as per now is that there was no active military confrontation between a group like NAS and the cattle herders. What has happened is that other raiders who come from the other section of Eastern Equatoria have raided them, and that resulted to the attacks. Of course, MAGWI falls in an area where there's activities of NAS, but whether it's an official NAS clash with the cattle herders is what I can't verify in this particular platform. But what I know that area, of course, NAS is active, but I can't confirm there's a confrontation between NAS and the cattle herders. But I know that there's confrontation between the cattle herders and raiders that have come to raid cattle, and they took quite a number of cattle, and that's why the cattle herders are now revenging against the host community, who are not normally people who rear cattle, who are not cattle keepers. So for me, the incident of the cattle raiding that has happened is the one which resulted to the loss of lives that has been numbered as 20 or 21. And of course, being as an armed struggle between the cattle herders and those who come to raid, that's where the element of NAS comes in. But of course, we have seen official statement from NAS that they're not part of that, they didn't attack everything. And also I've seen an official statement coming out from the government of Eastern Equatoria without indicating NAS, but also I've seen the herders saying NAS have officially attacked them and their NAS have killed them, the big number of them. So that's for me the dilemma in terms of the facts finding. But as somebody who is on the ground, somebody who is working with the information on the ground, I can't verify the NAS attack, but what I can verify is that raiding has taken place in that particular community and have resulted to loss of life. And of course, you know, all news of cattle raiding that are going on across the country normally would lose lives behind it. And it become a bit complex, and there's already element of misinformation. Even there's an element of use of wrong pictures, by the way. There are some people who are uploading pictures that are not necessarily from MAGWI, and they say this incident happened in MAGWI. And of course, there are images which prove correct, the burning of the houses, all that. But you see there's a picture trending in the social media where children were hung in a room. Children, I think, with the one parent or with one elder who would take care of them, 2 children, male and female, and then 1 elder that have been hung in a room. This picture is trending in the social media that this is happening in MAGWI. But when I go for my online verification of images, this picture surfaced to be used somewhere before the incident in MAGWI. So the question of also misinformation and disinformation is going on in relation to this incident of MAGWI.
Okay, thank you. You said that you mentioned about the cattle raider. These people are from Dingabor are coming to loot the cattle, or the community, actually community are raiding Dingabor cattle, or the Dingabor cattle keeper are raiding cattle from actually or other community. Can you clarify that for us?
The raiders which raid the cattle of Nkabor in actually land are not the actualists. They are coming from far. And of course, as I mentioned in the beginning, is that in Eastern Equatoria, other ethnic groups.
Oh, okay. We have the network is closed. For those of you who saying that, send me the link. This is the interview one-on-one. I cannot allow anybody to come up. If you have a question, just write in under the comment, and I will pull up your question and he can answer. So while I'm waiting for him, he's having a network connection. Yeah, for those of you who are listening to Clubhouse and Facebook, because we interviewing and bring somebody reliable information so that we know exactly what happened, and see how, because there's a lot of propaganda and misinformation that people posting on social media which are not accurate. So we will we need to bring people on the ground so that we can get the right information. So then Kamis, while I'm waiting for the guys to return, because you're having a network fallout, do you have something to say and give people a housekeeping rule in Clubhouse?
Thank you, Madik. Good morning and afternoon for those who are in Africa at this time, including other part of the world. The housekeeping, I think, will not going to take long. It depends on the guest time. It's getting late over there, and we don't know about the Africa network. Only when the time comes and you have a question, we are going to open up the hand operator. But right now, I have to keep it closed because we don't want to mess up. And if you have any comments, you can write it on the chat here. We can read it out to the guest. And also, if you don't want to write anything, just let me know later on.
بلنا بلنا تعبان من زمان يا ربنا.
So we don't want to threat him with a problem. Anyway, that's what I can say. And if he's back, let me know.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to come back. Yeah, thank you, Dan Hamis. I'm still waiting for them to come back. The network, sometimes, we know the network in South Sudan in Dubai is always this way. Just let us be patient. You can open up the hand raise and let people in for a second. And another thing too, I want to let people know, this room will not go longer. We have another show coming up within 2 hours from now. So that's another one. So this interview is for only 1 hour or 45 minutes. So, okay, here my guest is coming.
Yeah,
thank you. I know the network over there is sometimes
it's a challenge for us here.
I know. Okay. Yes, go ahead. Now, my next question is about the governor, the Honorable Louis Labong. What did the governor done to stop this incident, to bring the peace in the area, control the administration?
I think Governor Louis Lobong Lojore is promoting the culture of dialogue between the armed cattle herders and the host community, the pastoralists. Of course, we are all nationals, we are all South Sudanese, we need to live in our land, but of course, we need to live in our land in a way that we respect the norms and the tradition of the host community. So Lobong want to promote the culture that the armed cattle herders from Jongole or Bor in particular should enter into a dialogue with the host community in the way they respect the norms and the tradition of the host community, and specifically in this particular season where it's a farming season for the communities of MAGWI, which are mainly the Acholis, in terms of where cattle can be reared or where cattle can be kept far from the farms and where farmers can farm. Because as you are aware, my brother, that in South Sudan, we have been mentioned as this year we may be facing hunger gap. And one of the hunger gap is this continuous intercommunal violence that deny people not to go to farm. So Lobong is trying to promote culture of dialogue between the armed cattle herders and the pastoralists. And of course, we are expecting him to be summoned by the Council of States to the national level to provide his own strategy on how to mitigate this jointly with the governor of Jongole State, for them to come as the two governors of the two states that their communities are fighting in MAGWI. So I think that's a strategy that is going on now between the national and the subnational, and Lobong himself is promoting violence by promoting culture of deterring more occurrence of deadly armed violence between the pastoralists and the host community.
And what about the national government? Did they send any troop over there to stop, to help? Because I see one of the article, the governor Louis Lobong saying yesterday or 2 days ago, saying that you need help, you need a government of South Sudan to send in the troop. If they don't do that, he will mobilize the youth to defend themselves. So can you brief us about that? Why Honorable Louis Lobong say that comment to mobilize the youth if the government is not stepping in?
Lobong is saying that because
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Lobong is saying that because he feels the national government have not responded timely to his situation in MAGWI. And of course, he's expecting that there should be a deployment of a national, and if you see his statement, he reflected what he means as a frustration. He asked the South Sudan People's Defense Force to deploy to MAGWI to deter the violence. And remember, we are in an implementation of peace agreement where movement of armed forces or deployment of armed forces is questionable under the revitalized agreement, which is a confusing moment, especially for the national government. So I feel the national government have not done enough. Even the national government have not constituted a visit, an assessment team from the national government that can go down to the ground to MAGWI. In comparison, if you look at the incident that happened in RBA, the president responded quickly. The president constituted a presidential committee to handle RBA issue. And when there's a crisis in Pibo recently, the Minister of Interior, when the Baide Payam incident happened in Jongole, the Minister of Interior quickly rushed to the ground with other relevant ministries, and they visited people, they visited Jongole. So now this is one of MAGWI, as we are hearing messages coming, violence is looming and violence now occurring. The national government have never responded. The only initiative I've seen from the national government is that the Council of States have put the governor of Eastern Equatoria and governor of Jongole within the list of summons that they want to summon them to the Council of States to answer questions with regard to their strategies for mitigating the crisis on the ground. So I think that's what made Lobong to be a bit frustrated. But I think also he's sending a pressure to Juba in terms of using the praise, I'm going to mobilize the youth, because the level of violence that is occurring is likely to end up as a crime against humanity, or we can describe it as a genocide, because being at that particular border angle of South Sudan with Uganda, and where you have the two ethnic groups, the Mandi and the Acholis, where their land is now, they feel they've been bullied by the armed cattle herders. Likely you may attract the Acholis and the Mandis from Uganda to come into, and it may end up as a very complicated regional situation that begins from MAGWI. And that's why Lobong wants to send a message to Juba that you better respond. If you don't respond, then I'll mobilize the youth. So of course, mobilizing the youth, it means it's clearly raising a tension between the armed cattle herders and the host community, and that may end up as a violence, as a communal violence, where now the cattle herders may be flushed out of MAGWI through the youth Eastern Equatoria, specifically because if the national government failed to respond. But of course, Lobong as a governor, he can't see part of his communities under attack, and there's no solution to that. And of course, states have limited power in terms of providing safety and protection to the community. But I think that's what triggered Lobong to use that phrase of, I will mobilize the youth if the national government failed, simply because he felt frustrated. The national government is not doing enough to help him at the state level.
Okay, thank you. I have one of my co-hosts in Clubhouse want to ask you a question. Dinka, please go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you, and thank you, our guest. I have a very brief question. Very quick. There is conflicting reports coming out from the ground. One of the reports said, based on commissioners, the commissioner stated that fighting took place in the bush, which is closer to the place where we live. And the second one, it was stating that there was a cattle raiders from an unknown area that was an unknown use. And can you verify what does mean an unknown use? Where did the cattle raiders came to the cattle came? Raid the cattle from the community that are actually living there in that area. Those use came from. That's my question.
Thank you, Dinka. Go ahead, answer the question.
I think just for the sake of providing grateful answer to a question, I think his question is mainly asking me, the raiding that has happened has been described that this raiding was done by unknown youth. If I get him correct, he was asking, who are those unknown youth? So he needs clarity from me. Is that what he wants, isn't?
Yes. And also you mentioned about that the fight, the incident happened inside, away from the community, and attacks happened here in the forest. So that's what he said. That's the second question. Is that right, Dinka, miss?
Yeah. I quoted from the commissioner. It stated that the fighting in the bush, not closer to the area that the community live. That's why I'm asking that question.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I think his message is clear. First, this word of unknown, I don't know when in South Sudan can we end up unknown. I don't think there's something that unknown. And specifically become political leaders using this word unknown.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. He's fall out again. We have another network issues. Okay. Guys. They don't allow anybody up yet in the clubhouse while we have in the network issues. We will do this few people to ask their question, and then so let us wait until he come back. Yeah, well, amigo, do you guys want to say something or wait for the guests to come back? Well,
yes, you can actually write down my question. Either you, then, or which he was here to listen.
No, he will be back. He will be back. He will be back. It's just a network is going.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he will be back. I'm waiting for him to return.
Okay. I was really concerned about his comment, and actually the comments of Louis Lebon, the rhetoric of mobilizing ethnic youth to enforce, I don't even know what law was Governor Lebon enforcing. To me, that actually failed the test of nationalism. When you are a governor, it's safe.
Okay.
As sort of a paramilitary group of yours. So, to me, that is a failure, and it does not actually. It does not.
Guys, I cannot send the link. If you have a question, just writing under because I cannot bring anybody up.
About that article, and I thought that was just a propaganda against Louis Lebon. But now, Mr. Edmund Yakani seems to actually confirm that. And so that is really, really troubling. Is that how we are going to be handling things in our country? Is that a nationalism? What happened to the police? Because Eastern Equatoria is one of our 10 states. It does get a budget from our national government. Where is the police of Eastern Equatoria to enforce the rule of law? Those youth are already involved in the conflict. So what youth is the governor relying on to mobilize and mobilize them against you and to enforce what kind of law?
Okay.
That statement is
Okay. Well. Okay. Well.
Very responsible and reinforces the anarchy in our, and it's very sad that the government has to say something like that. If he doesn't have police, then he should resign.
Okay, well, I think.
Okay, the guest is back. Well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, my guest is back. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. EDMUND. Finish your to answer that question.
Exactly. Just sorry. Internet in my side is a bit problem, but I think my answer is that these particular cattle raiders that came to raid the cattle of Bor is that these cattle raiders coming from communities that are raiding also in Eastern Equatoria. I don't think we need to call them unknown. It's either they're from Mosa or the Dinga or the Boya. That's why I have to make it very clear that those cattle keepers communities in Eastern Equatoria, they came to raid, and I think that requires an investigation from the state authority. And I don't think that we can term them as unknown. They should be known because there's nobody who can come armed and raid a section of the country and then say this unknown. That's for me, it's a culture. But of course, in the excess of the cattle raiding, normal classes are involved. Either classes are involved prior to the raiding or classes after the raiding. So I will say this raiding is a raiding that has happened. It's raiding that has happened in terms of the classes, and classes has happened. And that's why also we need to see the state in confirming whether that first clashes that happen outside the town is between the cattle herders and us, or it's between the cattle herders and the raiders. Because for me, it's important that our leaders now have to take responsibility of really speaking to the accuracy of facts. Because if we're to seek solution to problem, then there's a need to have to describe the problem in a rightful way. So for me, what is going on is that people now start misusing information for whatever intention they have. But obviously, clash has happened, as Commissioner have said, is that clash between the cattle herders and the raiders which came, that need to be verified, but there's a raiding happen after the clash. And the raiding are coming from some section of the communities from Eastern Equatoria. And of course, we know Eastern Equatoria have communities that are involved in raiding between either among themselves or raiding between them and the Murle, or raiding between them and the Toposa, or among themselves, or raiding between them and some tribes in Uganda, or in Kenya. So I think that is a fact that need to be established. So we shouldn't escape responsibility of showing the facts, and so that we can find a solution to the situation. Escaping facts will never help us in this country and will make us lose the lives of our innocent citizens. That's what I'd like for me to confirm as my response.
Okay, thank you, brother EDMUND. The next person who will ask a question is and then after Well, and then comes who next? Well, go ahead, answer your question.
Amigo. Here, so just go ahead and put in your two questions, and from there we'll move on to Amigo.
Yes, thank you so much, Abraham, and thank you so much also, Brother Edmund Yakani, for taking the time to address our concern.
Raise your voice a little bit, Well. Raise your voice a little bit.
Say that again?
Speak up a little bit. We can hear you.
Okay. What I'm saying is this, when I had a conversation with Governor Louis Lobang, stated that he would mobilize the local youth to address the insecurity in MAGWI County. Yeah, for the first time I read it, I did not believe it. I thought it was propaganda against Louis Lobang. But now that you have come to confirm it, that actually raised a lot of red flags. First of all, I want to know, why is the governor of Equatoria seems to be taken aside in the conflict, particularly a conflict in which the youth from the host community are already involved in it when they attack the cattle camp? Louis Lobang is the governor of one of our 10 states, Eastern Equatoria. He said that actually get a budget from our national budget as a country. Assuming that he's a governor, doesn't he have police forces? Why would you rely on the local youth to be involved in this? What law, what rule of law would the local youth be enforcing? Are they even trained enforcement agents? And the governor of Equatoria, who are youth and who are not?
Okay.
Who are the youth that is mobilized and again?
Okay, thank you, Comrade Well. Okay, Brother EDMUND, go ahead and answer his question.
I think, yes, my brother was asking the question of why a governor of a state, of one of our states, and remember, we are all nationals. We have the right to live as South Sudanese in the states, because I may come from a different state, I can go and live in another state, and of course, my protection and safety is the responsibility of that governor, of commissioner, or mayor, or if I am director or bomber administrator where I'm living as a national. That's obviously is a constitutional obligation for any political leader to take that responsibility. So asking, why should he go and mobilize the youth? I think it's a sign of frustration. It's a sign of frustration from the governor, Louis Lobang, from the national government. But I think also it is a pressure that the presence of huge influx of armed cattle herders in MAGWI is giving governor a pressure that this area particularly is MAGWI is an area of farming, people to farm, and there's a huge influx of cattle in an well-coordinated manner, because I'm quite sure if things could have been coordinated earlier, could have not taken us to this level, and that's why he's frustrated. But one thing that I think, which is for me, I don't agree also with him as a governor, is to use the word of we're going to mobilize the youth as a threatening language to the national government to respond, which I think for me, by professional being as a leader, is not something that we can accept our leaders to start mobilizing youth to a clash, because we are aware that in the country now, youth are well armed more than even our law enforcement agencies. As my brother was asking, were there no police? I'm quite sure police have the capability to deter any violence. And even if police fail, a joint force of police and military can start like been used in other parts of the country. When they remember the situation of ABA and Twitch, is that we use state agencies to deter that violence. The same thing can be used in MAGWI. But the problem comes is that some politicians are now more interested in using armed youth as a force that they can't be held accountable to deter violence. So I don't agree with the concept of mobilizing the youth flash, because the governor, he is the chair of the security committee. He have the orders to use all security apparatus to go to the ground and deter this crisis. And he have his counterpart from Jongole. He can call Governor Denai, and they can agree with Denai on how to really put a joint force or how to approach the national government to deter violence or to use a national force, being it police or army or a joint police and military. But obviously, the level of our politicians now arming youth in order to handle question of individual and community safety and security is taking presidency in South Sudan so much. And that's why automatically this means the rule of law has failed in the country. So our own leaders are collapsing the rule of law. I don't know for what interest, which I don't know what's the interest behind it, but the reality is that now there's a really breakdown in the rule of law with the behaviors that we believe on armed youth to become a community defense force that offers now the safety and security for individual communities. So for me, that is really a disturbing information. Like the way you're disturbed is the same way I'm disturbed, and not it's only in MAGWI, it's across the country. As we're speaking, that's why armed youth in the site of Pibor. Remember, AU Peace and Security Council has a visit to Pibor, and the Pibor administrative area told the AU Peace and Security Council ambassadors that youth are armed more than the army. So for me, it's really a new trend that we need to stop it as South Sudanese at our various capacities. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, the next person then comes. Let Amigo go ahead with his question, and then we move up from here.
Oh, okay. Amigo, estimate your mic. You have two questions. Amigo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, if you can manage to
Yes.
have two questions, I would be good.
Actually, I have one question in just part A and B, just very quick. First of all, I would like to thank you, Brother Mudid, Brother Dane, Brother Waz, and Mr. Edmund. Thank you so much for being here. My question is going to go like this. These kind of keepers, those incidents and the problems that has been happening in the region in the terms of insecurity, this is not just like last week problem that has been there for about years. And especially, I do have a couple of reports here with me since 2014, when former governor, Kalaman Wani, he said that all these kind of keepers, they need to go back to their origin state because they are creating insecurity in the region. And also on March 8th, that's in 2015, President Kiir also requested that all these kind of keepers to go back to their origin state. And it's been going on and on and on and on till last week. The Minister of Information, Michael MAGWI, also he said that these keepers should go back to their origin state, and they can go back voluntarily, or the action can be taken against them. My question to you is this: what is the governor of the state and the national government? What is the process and the plan and the time frame for these kind of keepers to go back to the origin state, so the security and peace can be in the region, and this kind of incident not to happen again? Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Amigo. That's a good question. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Yeah, if a question. I don't think we need to really threaten ourselves in that manner. If we're really nationalist, in the sense that we need to have a proper governance system, rule of law, and we need to coordinate this particular situation of farmers and pastoralists coexistence. Of course, the question is that the herders are armed, and this is why everybody's a bit worried about the armed herders. But I think the state have a responsibility to collect the arms out of that hand of those people, especially like upon entry to MAGWI, we could have really put a deterrent force that would have collected the arms or coordinated dialogue between the farmers and the pastoralists, where to live in some other countries, some other parts of the country, there's a good practice like that. But I don't think that these political statements all have a clear timeline. It is just political statements issued and presidential decree without an implementation matrix, and even without procedures and without mechanism to execute. And these statements are making complications. If they can use such statements and they can define a mechanism to implement them with a clear timeline, I think we'll find a solution that will not reach the situation that we have now in MAGWI. But these are all just political statements, political orders, without clear time frame, without clear implementation mechanism. And that become problematic because it starts increasing, it starts fueling tension between farmers and the pastoralists. Thank you over there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have a follow-up for this, and this is very interesting because, I hear it, we hear these issues have been issues in land grab, land issues, cattle keepers, cattle in the Equatorian land. This has been a lot of issue for the past few years. And we see the voices of son and daughter of the Equatorian community. They are very concerned. And this is one of the things that we all South Sudanese, including the government, work together so that there will be a bridge between these two communities, so that the cattle keepers can, yes, of course, these cattle keepers, if they want to go back, as the president stated, they can go back to their original place. So my question to you, has that some of the voices of son of daughter in Equatoria and in social media, they are campaigning a lot. They say that there is a lack of compassion land grabbing in the area. Can you tell us, for really, this is true? There's a land occupation and land grabbing in the Equatoria land by the Dinka community?
One of the things I can share with you is that land is sensitive aspect in South Sudan because our identities are identified by land. Today, if you ask me who am I say I'm Edmund, you say where are you coming from, I will immediately link you to the name of my land, either name Payam or name as a county or name as a state. And the way how even our identity that we have regional is that we use Equatorial land, we use Barakazal land, Upper Nile land. So land is a source of an identity in our context. The problem that we have that has brought a tension between the pastoralists and the farmers in Eastern Equatoria is that when pastoralists come, first they come without respecting the norms and the traditions of the indigenous communities, and specifically when they come with the cattle. So one of the things is that when you come to farmers' areas, you need to give them the freedom to farm, and you don't need to control their access to farmland. But pastoralists who are coming are armed, they control farmers' access to farmland. That's one thing. Second thing is renaming of places. Where you come, you find this place have its original name, but you start renaming it either new so and so, like we had in Juba. You have an area in Juba which is renamed as Jebel Dinka, while actually the original name is not Jebel Dinka. These are some of the practices. These are some of the things that are used to increase tension among the communities. That you come to my village, you find my village have its own name, and you start bringing your own name and you start renaming it, and this is becoming a claim. And some people have associated this particular culture with the culture of plots grabbing in Juba, which I don't want to use land because there's a difference between land grabbing and plots grabbing. That somebody have a plot and his plot is grabbed. It's not a land completely, honestly. It's a piece of land. So the culture of plots grabbing in Juba is associated with the culture of renaming places in Equatorial land. So for me, the problem is we need to be honest and sincere to ourselves that when we are South Sudanese, we need to live everywhere, but we live everywhere with the respect of norms and traditions of where we are. Today, I can't go to any community and you start renaming your own community. For example, my brother, if I used to go to lakes, right from Rumbek, I visit all the counties. I can't today go to Rumbek from Yei and I start renaming lakes as a Yei River State County or Yei River something. It will antagonize you, though it is not for bad intention, but politicians will take over. So one of the biggest problems in terms of these issues is that politicians are politicizing that, and these also have come to a problem that the rightful owners of the cattle are not really the cattle herders that are going behind them. They are generals in the army, they're politicians, and you can hear from MAGWI, when MAGWI tell the intellectuals that you intellectuals support when I talk to you as a chairperson, we agree for cattle's return, but you as intellectuals, you go and talk. Some of these intellectuals are generals, some of these intellectuals are politicians. So it's a question of, we need to take responsibility on how to build a culture of peaceful coexistence between pastoralists and farmers related to the use of the land. And we cannot coexist because all of us have mutual benefits if we really have a principle of peaceful coexistence that will respect each other's way of living, norms, and tradition. I don't think it can be a source of violence. But the question is that because they become armed and they become more aggressive to the indigenous communities, which are mainly the farmers. So those voices are coming from that background. But I think for me still, there's opportunity for us to discuss among ourselves as nationals and find an amicable way of resolving that, where we can avoid some of the things that might have fueled tension among ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes. Let me talk about the refugees crisis in MAGWI area. So how is the situation over there, and how is a need for those women and children that have been displaced during this crisis?
Obviously, there's a dire humanitarian situation on the ground in MAGWI, and as I'm speaking to you, we're now mobilizing clothes from various South Sudanese, and South Sudanese are really helping us in giving us clothes beyond the sons and daughters of MAGWI. Other South Sudanese from other parts of the country are giving us clothes to take to the women and the children who are already, their houses were burnt and they have lost clothes. And food also up to now, there's a food mobilization going on in the country, and I think also there's a likely field visits will go to MAGWI, but so there's a way of people are trying to respond, but their situation is in dire need of humanitarian assistance. And if I say humanitarian, it means everything that is humanitarian, medical, food, shelter, it become a big tense. But of course, we try our level best to make sure that we do a visibility and we provide humanitarian assistance within our capacity before others will come and help us. So I'll also take the chance of using your platform to ask whoever want to contribute to reach out to us through the contacts I have with you. If they can reach to you, if they can mobilize and they can reach out to me, this also is a culture of nationalism. But I think there's a dire humanitarian need that we need to all put our hands to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. If you have a link for that, if there is something you guys set up for fundraising for the people in diaspora can contribute, for that humanitarian card. Let me know. You can send me the link and I can post it on Legislative Media, and so they can add something, because the women and children are the vulnerable this region. So we have that, because and also to, if the United Nations can just approach the UN so they can do something to, because to rescue the children and women that were displaced in that area. So Clubhouse, because we have less than 15 minutes to wrap it up. Then comes, if there's anybody else want to ask the question. There are some questions that are coming from the Facebook. Let me pull it up here. There's a Win Yan Dao is asking, I'm pulling up Mr. Edmund. I put up the question coming from Win Yan Dao. It's asking, will the lies save South Sudan or truth? Seeing when did the Dinka people name Jebel Dinka, or you mean Dinkas were slaughtering themselves in that area, name it of Jebel Dinka. So yeah, I will skip that question because I want this interview to go ahead, because I don't want to be a negativity something. So let us focus. We need to focus on the issues going on in MAGWI area. So that's what I want to discuss. Jacob, do you have any other question?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, well, can you talk loud?
Go ahead. Well,
Yes, thank you so much for being honored. I feel a sense of hesitation in your voice, the way you respond to some things that we are. The country is our country, all of us. We all belong to every, and of course, we have to be by the rule of law. Even our constitution guarantees our Bill of Rights to live and move anywhere in our country without any prejudice, based on ethnic background, religion, or sex or age. Mr. Edmund, now that the insecurity has happened in that part of our country, what is available now? What have the government done in order to restore the hope of his coming back to the town? And where have our people who have been displaced gone? Are they still in? We have the border into Uganda. Where are they exactly? Where are the two IDPs? Because there are IDPs from the cattle people as well as IDPs from the host communities of Acholi and Magi. Where are those two IDPs at now?
Okay.
Madid, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. So, Mr. Edmund, did you hear that question?
Yes, I got the question right.
Okay.
And I don't know whether I need to excuse myself. I had other pressure of other meetings around me. I need to go for it, but I will answer this question. There's other question I can answer. Maybe left with 5 minutes to wrap up.
Yeah. So
that's
question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Bill of Rights is something that we need to build as a civic orientation to our citizens to understand how we need to coexist by the Bill of Rights. I accept that. But the IDPs are all in MAGWI headquarters.
And there's a echo sound on the background.
The background is a bit headache because I have another meeting going on around. They're starting right now. So I'll ask them to give me a bit of. But I said IDPs are in MAGWI headquarters, both for the Acholi and for the pastoralists. They are in MAGWI headquarters, and that's the problem. That has the IDPs where they are. So I don't know whether you can allow me to excuse myself to join the other meeting around me.
Okay. Yeah. So before you go, guys. Okay. So before you go, my last question is this. So which is this is what would be the solution to fix this problem between the cattle keepers and Eastern Equatorial communities? What will be the solution to bring this issue?
I think my proposal for the solution, I'm believing tomorrow to the ground. I'll be on the ground. We're going to promote the dialogue between the pastoralists and the farmers. But I think we need to make it as a gradually. One, you need to isolate the friction between the farmers and the pastoralists over the use of the land. So you need to create something like distant them, not to compete over the land. There should be land for farming and there should be land for grazing, but also to have a clear timeline on when will the cattle herders from Jongole to return, because remember they came because of the flood. Now the flood is subsiding, you need to go. And remember also we're facing rain season. There's going to increase the amount of water. So I think the national government need to promote culture of dialogue between the pastoralists and the farmers and see a amicable solution where we don't have an immediate solution right now. The solution to do is that let us dialogue, let's talk, but let us minimize occurrence of violence between the pastoralists and the farmers over the fraction of the land. So thank you for hosting me in this program, and thank you very much. It's simply because I have other commitments in front of me right now here, but I would like to say thank you for giving me the space to at least clarify some of the facts.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Elwood. Thank you so much, Mr. Elwood, guys. Thank you so much. I will let you go and I will bring you up again. Thank you for coming in. Those of you in Clubhouse, please mute yourself. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will let you go to attend another event. Thank you, Dinkamis. So go ahead. So my guest is going. You have another event he's attending. So yeah, go ahead. What did you say?
Is he left?
Yeah, he left. Yes, he left. He have another event he's attending. So okay. So you guys can continue with the room.
There was 2 people here to ask a question, but
yeah, you guys continue with the room. Then Kamis, you guys continue with the room. If you guys continue the room for the next 30 minutes or so, and I'm about to end the show in Let's Say Media. So thank you, and thank you those who come in at Let's Say Media for watching. You know, it's very important. So last week we brought one of the leaders from the Dingabor community to interview to see exactly what's going on. And today we bring one of the community leader from Eastern Equatoria to give us what the insight to. So we have to be fair and balanced. So we are here to dig out the truth, what really happened, because we don't want to lie on the propaganda or lie in social media. So we need to bring the people that who have the right information. So thank you for those of you in Clubhouse for listening. You guys continue to talk about this, and then I will end the show at Let's Say Media. Thank you for watching, and then thank you for listening. Have a good day. Good morning.
It's your boy Young Love, I give him that time. But all legs stand and punch it America. Banyi doll, ban punch all legs stand and punch it America. Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankara watana watching. Koga level leg, gear pow, garay leg. Panda with ya, punch it America. Banyi doll, ban chingatonga pandon kujura by a check out. Paku panda jiro, what ya be doll venting. Stand and punch it America. Banyi doll, ban punch a leg stand and punch it America. Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankara watana watching. Koga level leg, gear pow, garay leg. Panda with ya, punch it America. Banyi doll, ban chingatonga pandon kujura by a check out. Paku panda jiro, what ya be doll venting.